Hi everybody, and welcome to our Boost Credit Talks on Facebook Live. Thank you for tuning in today, and happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm Liz, and I'm joined today with Carlos, our operations manager. How are you today?
Really good. How are you doing, Liz?
I'm good. I'm excited for the weekend and excited to go out and have some fun with friends. And why don't you tell our audience, since it's your first time joining us on Facebook Live, we're really excited to have them. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do, your hobbies.
So I am the operations manager here at Rent Reporters. I've been here for about a year, and during that time, I've been part of a really great team that has worked to put together the processes and procedures that we use to report your credit to the credit bureaus. In my spare time, I'm involved in a lot of different civic and political stuff, including I'm a member of the Freemasons. I want to shout them out because they lent me the projector that we're using to throw this up on the wall today. It was kind of a last-minute audible that we did, and they were just really cool to lend me that. So Montebello Whittier 323, that's for you guys.
And it looks awesome. I do have to say, this is the first time we've thrown it up. Let me know what you guys think of what it is that it looks like. I think it looks really cool, but I'd love to hear some of your guys' feedback. Well, let's get into today's topic. Today our topic is how to get a credit report and then how to read it.
Right, and what we have here on the wall is a typical TransUnion credit report. The way you would get this is by either going directly to TransUnion, or once a year, everybody is entitled to get one copy of each of their 3 credit reports. The best way to make sure that you're going to the correct site and that you're not going to one of the various sites out there that is less than legitimate is to go to the Federal Trade Commission website. That's ftc.gov. And from there you can find the link that will take you to a website actually that will get you all 3 credit reports at once. It's really great, and it's definitely something you should do at least once a year to make sure that everything's fine. Today we're presenting the TransUnion credit report because it's a bureau that we report to, and it's the one that at least for the time being, we really, really want everybody to know how to read.
Great, and then before we get into it, I just ask that you please like this video, share it with your friends and family. Not everybody knows how to read a credit report, so if you share this video, it's really going to help them out. And you can ask questions throughout the live show, and we'll be answering them live at the end of it, and then I'm going to actually head up online after the video's up and be answering questions that maybe we didn't get through or replying to comments at the end.
So all 3 of the reports are going to have essentially the same information on them. They're just presented in a slightly different way and in a slightly different order. I'm honestly a really big fan of this one because graphically it's really, really easy to read it and know what exactly is going on.
And before Carlos breaks down the specific of the TransUnion credit report, I just wanted to let you know what the credit report is used for. So the things that a credit report is going to tell you, it's going to tell you the types of credit used, the length of credits accounts that have been opened, whether bills have been paid on time, how much credit has been used, and a broader view of credit history. And there are 4 main components to any credit report, and you're going to see them on here. So one thing that we specifically wanted to go with TransUnion and we want our viewers to know is that every credit report is going to look slightly different in appearance. So your TransUnion report is going to look slightly different than your Equifax or your Experian. But like we said, we want to go over the TransUnion report because it's the one that we want our consumers to be able to read and know where everything's at. But the 4 main components are your identifying information, any trade line information, your inquiries, hard and soft, and the public record. So the first thing that we're going to get into is personal information. So why don't you go ahead and take everyone through this, Carlos?
So personal information, actually, TransUnion, most of them actually will have it right up front. They don't bury the lead because this is honestly the single most important piece of information on your entire report. If there's something wrong in this part of your report, there's a good chance that there's something wrong in everything else. So you'll see your social security number up top. You're going to see your date of birth. You're going to see your name and names reported. Again, there's a lot of variability in names. A lot of people go by a lot of different names. You might be Francisco on your birth certificate, and you might be Frank on car loan. It happens, and it's important that all of your names be correct there, whatever it is that you go by. Addresses reported, very important. You would think that social security number and date of birth is the best way to find out who you are. In reality, address is equally important, if not more so. So definitely make sure to check the addresses to be sure that they're correct and accurate, and that they're properly reported. Telephone numbers are the next thing that's down, and then employers. Now, something about how they get this data. When it comes to addresses, it really comes down to the accounts that you have that are reporting this information to the credit bureaus. So, for example, you might notice that you have no employers at all on your credit report. I have one. The main reason being that I've only had one car loan ever so far, and that one car loan is what reported that employer. Not every type of loan reports every type of information. All of my addresses are on and correct on my report, and the reason why is because I have a student loan, and the student loan is constantly transmitting that kind of information to the credit bureaus.
And like you said, so you're wondering, how does this information get here? So like you said, maybe all your employees' information is not here. Maybe all your addresses are not here. So who decides what is actually put onto this report? Well, that's important. It's not necessarily up to you. It's up to the creditors who are reporting to these credit reporting agencies, sending them the information. Like employers is a good example. You can work at a job, and they may not have the need to report any of your information to this credit bureau. That's why it's not going to appear. It's not that you're not employed by that employer. It's just that there has been no information sent to these credit reporting agencies that is available on your report. So that's how all this information begins to appear on here. And then we're going to move on to our next segment of information. Stephanie, if you can just scroll up a little so that our audience can see that a little bit better. Perfect. A little bit down. Perfect. So we have our account information, and these are going to be all our cues specifically in the TransUnion report. Again, every report is going to have these look different. They may have different acronyms that they're using, but you want to use this as your key. So in the TransUnion, I'll go ahead and take half the board, and I'll let Carlos finish up on that half. We're going to have an N/R, and that means that something is not reported. We're going to have an X, and this just means that there's unknown information provided by the creditor to the credit reporting agency, so the credit reporting agency cannot say what that is. OK means that the account is current and paid on time. A 30, an orange 30 with a box around it, is that the account was made 30 days late. The same for 60, it's slightly darker orange. Then we get into our red, 90 days late, and then a even darker shade of red, which is 120 days late. And then I'll let Carlos kind of take over for that side of the spectrum.
And then this side is the really bad side.
Not that these aren't bad, because we know we don't want to make late payments, but that's the ultra bad side.
Yes, this is the ultra bad side. You'll see collections, voluntary surrender, repossession, charge-off, and foreclosure. These are the broken mirror versions of bad things on your credit report. This is the stuff that's going to give you bad luck for 7 years. And the only thing that really cures these, as you've seen in earlier presentations, is time.
Perfect. And then, so that's our key that we're going to use throughout the segment of, because now we're going to get into our trade lines. So this entire block of satisfactory accounts is every specific trade line that's posted. And this is going to be the biggest bulk of your credit report. And I'm going to let Carlos kind of break down the logistics within here. But like we said, these are your trade lines. Here's the information, and here's how they report it. And Carlos will break that down for you.
So if you remember the key that we were looking at earlier, and one of the things that I really like about the TransUnion report is that it's graphically really engaging. You look at it, and right away you know. I mean, you really don't even have to like read it that carefully. You just scan through it, and you can tell what's going on. So every account is going to have the name of the institution that's giving it to you. It's going to tell you the date it was opened, the date it was up, the date it was most recently updated. It'll tell you what kind of account it is in terms of who's responsible for paying on it, whether it's an individual or a joint or, you know, maybe even like a corporate account that's a sole proprietorship of some kind. And then you'll see what kind of account it is, a revolving account.
Those are typically your credit cards.
Yeah, or a installment account, which would be a car.
Student loans.
Or a mortgage account, different things. And it actually, the reports actually break it down much more specifically. So it will tell you whether it's a student loan versus a mortgage versus, you know, whatever else. And it says that immediately below credit card in that instance. And then it'll tell you what your status is, whether this is current, paid, or paying as agreed. If you're already in collections, if you're, you know, have a negative a balance behind, you're behind on a balance, it will tell you something up here that will let you know to that effect. And it'll tell you the terms, amount per month, paid monthly. In this case, these terms really are indicative of the fact that it is a revolving account. If it was, for example, an installment account, it would tell you in here what your installments are per month.
Like a car loan. So if you had a car loan and you agreed to pay $300 each month, that's where that would be at on the report.
And if you go further down into, the credit limit. Yeah, that's right. And so the credit limit is right here. It'll tell you what your limit is and what period of time that was your limit. If you have any increases in your credit limit, it'll show them right here, as it does right there. And it'll give you an idea of what your total history was. That type of stuff is very important to folks who are trying to give you more credit, right? Whether it's a mortgage or something else like that. They want to see that you've been judged creditworthy by a long-time partner. In this instance, it would show one.
So that's a really good thing, folks. We really want to, if this is on your report, that means you're doing some really great things with this creditor, paying on time. And like we said, anytime you get those offers to increase that credit limit, please take them. Doesn't mean that you need to spend more money, but it does increase your credit utilization, or it's going to lower your credit utilization, but higher your credit limit.
Now, if you see down here, you can see they'll give you the balance as of that date of the date of each month that it's the due date of each month. It'll tell you how much you paid, how much you're past due, and what your high balance is.
Great. And so before we move on, I think this is where things can start to begin to look a little bit confusing, because somebody who's never seen a credit report or has never been exposed to it, this is a lot to graphically intake. It's visually kind of scary. And this is TransUnion. This is one of the most visually stimulating one. But as it says, this is month by month. So it's going to be most current to the past. So this is February, January, December, November, October, September, and sequentially retrograding backwards. So that's what that looks like. But every segment is the same exact thing, where it's going to have the balance, the scheduled payment, the amount paid, past due, high balance, and the rating. So this is where we're going to see, did they make this payment on time? Yes and no. And that's where we're looking for those visual cues and keys that we just went over, whether there was any late payments. So ideally, hopefully, everyone's green on their TransUnion, but if not, time can hopefully fix that.
And quite honestly, if you are a spreadsheet nerd like me, all of this stuff in the gray and white is interesting and exciting, and you're like, hey, this is cool. But if you're most people, all you really want to see is green OKs all the way across the board. That is basically all you're really looking for. And if you see something that is not a green OK, you want to make sure that it really is something that you didn't pay on time, right? You want to make sure that you really were 30 days late, or 60 days late, or 90 days late. And if you're not, you should definitely call the creditor and definitely call the credit bureau and dispute that fact. That's the most important thing. You want to look through this and you want to make sure that you're all green. And if you have anything that isn't green, that there's a good reason for it, and that you know what it is, and that you are well aware of the fact that that was not your, you goofed up that month, But at the very least, you have to be sure that it's accurate and correct. It's so important to do this review at least once a year.
This is what we talk about when we say check your credit reports annually. These are the things that you're really looking into. Like I said earlier, the bulk of your credit report are these trade lines, and these are the specific trade lines broken down. So as you see, as Stephanie, who's joining us today in the back, is scrolling, and that looked like a lot of scrolling. Sorry if that made anybody dizzy. I know I was like, whoa, as it was scrolling, but like we said, that's the bulk of the credit report. So if we look, this credit report is 18 pages long. The first page was all that account information and that key, but basically from page 2 all the way to page 12 are all the trade lines posted. So if we go to the end of page 12, so this is continuing to report trade lines. If we pause here, this is our next segment. So this is our regular inquiries. So remember I talked about those 4 main components: your personal information, your trade lines. Now this is your inquiries, and TransUnion breaks it down into different types of inquiries, which Carlos is going to break it down into, and the first being the regular inquiries.
So regular inquiries are hard pulls, what is known more colloquially as hard pulls. So hard pulls are situations where you go down to a store, or you go down to a bank, or you open up one of those offers that you get in the mail for a credit card, and you call the number, go to the website, sign up on the spot for a credit line. And when you do that, you get this regular inquiry, which is a hard pull. And as you know from earlier segments that we've done, hard pulls do affect your credit rating in a negative way, especially if you have too many of them. So it's very, very, very important to look at this section and make sure that you really did ask for credit at all of these different providers. Because if any of them are in doubt, or if any of them are a gray area, you really need to reach out to the Bureau and ask them for review and to fix the issue that you have there. This is also important for another completely different reason. Find out, this you can use to figure out, plan out your economic choices for the year. If you see that you've got X amount of hard pulls here, and you can see right here when they were requested, right? Well, that also tells you when they're going to come off, right? Because they stay on for 2 years. So that means that these 2015s, in the case of this John Doe here, these 2015s are going to come off this year. Which, if he's paying attention, he could then turn around and say, okay, well, I've got 3 pulls that are coming off. I'm comfortable with the credit, the credit score that I have when I have this many pulls. Do I need anything this year? Do I need a car? Do I need another credit card? Do I need to refinance? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Very important right here to be strategic about these pulls.
So can I add 2 points to that, Carlos?
Sure.
The first is being that creditors actually need your permission to have a hard pull. So if you see a hard pull that's on this segment, so I see here maybe a T-Mobile and I don't carry with T-Mobile, then I can say, you know what, I didn't authorize this. Or like we seen in the case 2 weeks ago when Demetrio went to go get his car for the first time, they did 7 hard pulls, of which he did not authorize. So he can then combat that with the credit reporting agency and say, I did not authorize this, can we get these removed? So that's important. And let's see, what was the other main point? You had said about the economic choices here.
Yes.
Go on, and then I'll think of my next point.
And actually, it's interesting too. Going back to the economic choices, there actually is a post on our Facebook page that is incredibly relevant to this kind of thing. I was just looking at it earlier today. So definitely do remember that on our Facebook page we do post all of these great links to different resources that will help you become more financially literate. So definitely do check out our page, follow us, friend us. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, so please do. On Facebook, of course.
Okay, let's go ahead and go down to the next one, which is our promotional inquiries. And this is what we have known as our soft pulls. So, go ahead.
So these right here don't actually count in a negative way towards your credit rating. However, they are indicative.
I remember what I was going to say.
Oh.
Actually, I remember the point I was going to say.
What were you
Stephanie,
gonna
can you
say?
scroll up a bit? So one of the main components of our credit report as they calculate, as our credit score, is that they don't want to see that we're making too many hard pulls on our credit report. So having too many of these accounts in this section can lower your credit score. So that's when Carlos is saying to, now that this John Doe has two that are going to fall off, now that's the reason he can make the decision to pull another hard pull on here, because that's showing financial responsibility. So that's how that financial responsibility gets kind of factored into that overall credit score. You can scroll up. I just forgot for a second.
All right, so promotional inquiries. Promotional inquiries, again, don't count towards your credit rating in a negative or positive way. These are all of those envelopes that you're getting in the mail day after day, week after week, asking you to please get a Barclays card, for example. And if you're a homeowner and they're trying to get you to refinance, all of these soft pulls, what they're basically doing is they're basically checking aspects of your credit, not the entire thing, just aspects of it, to kind of get a general feel about whether or not you'd be a good candidate for some of these offers, right? They obviously don't want to take a huge risk, so they're trying to make sure that you're at least within that risk pool before they start, or at least outside of that risk pool before they start tempting you with a new card or something like that. I mean, obviously they don't want to spend money on the marketing materials either. These are not really super important, but they are a pretty good indicator of, let's say you do decide that you're going to go after a card, right? Because they've already got you, you're going to try and do that this year. That's going to be your thing. You now know all of these guys are probably going to give you one.
Great. Okay, so then we can scroll down to our next segment, which is our account review inquiries. And I thought this was the most interesting section of it all. So why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
So these inquiries also don't have any effect on your credit rating or your credit worthiness. But what they are is they are transaction soft pulls that are being done by people who you're already doing business with. So these are very similar to promotional ones in that, for example, if you already have a Discover card, why are they still pulling you? Well, because Discover offers a lot of other products. They offer personal loans, they offer mortgages, they offer all sorts of different things, car loans. Basically, just about every type of money lending you could want, right? They're offering it, and so what they're doing is periodically they're pinging you to see whether or not you would qualify for some of these other programs.
Another big one is Credit Karma. So if we encourage all of our customers to be aware of their credit score, and one of the main sites that we send them to is Credit Karma, because that's where you can pull your free credit score from TransUnion and Equifax. So what you're going to see is John Doe here has an account with Credit Karma, and you're going to see that they're also pulling this information. So it's a way for accounts to proactively check in on you.
But again, a really good way also of finding whether or not there's an account on here that you don't recognize, right? Because where there's smoke, there's fire, and if somebody is pinging you on a soft pull on right here, there's a really good chance that there's something else going on somewhere else. So this is a good place to come and double check, make sure that the accounts that are on here are valid accounts, and if you find one that isn't, go up top to that really long scrolly section and double check to make sure that there isn't something there too.
Okay, perfect. And you're going to see that that is actually where the credit report ends. And if you just scroll down a little bit more for me, Stephanie, what you're going to see in this section, so now we're at page 15 of 18 on this specific John Doe's credit report. And this is going to be all your rights. If you're not aware of your rights, please read this at least once. This is going to tell you all the information under the Free Credit Reporting Act. We've talked about that. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, we've talked about that in a previous Facebook Live. But this is a really big section to read. Do you have anything to add into this particular component?
No, not really. It can be a little bit daunting to go through this, but it's really important to do it because especially if you've discovered anything negative that you're going to contest further up. Read this before you start, reaching out to people to see how you're going to fix it. Because this is definitely going to help you out.
And the next biggest part that I want you guys to know is that there is contact information that they offer. So they tell you the type of business and who you can contact. So again, if you find aspects in your credit report that you're not happy with, feel free to contact these creditors at this number. It's already on the report for you. That was a big chunk of information. I'm really happy that you guys stuck through that. I really hope that it wasn't too much information coming at you too fast. But again, we're always here to answer questions. I hope throughout the segment, if you guys had any questions, you drop them down below. We can answer them. But even if you're not watching this live, and I know not everybody can watch this at the time that we're posting it, but please still share it with a friend. Everybody can benefit from knowing how to read this. Post it onto your page and ask questions. We always go back and try to answer as many questions as we can. And if not, feel free to hop on to our live chat on our website or email us. We can answer any questions that you have. You can ask to speak to me specifically, even Carlos. Carlos is great. If you guys see, he has an eclectic amount of knowledge and he can help you with a lot of information. So let's get on the phone and bug him. He's not busy enough. All right, you guys, is there any questions or we're good to wrap up? Thank you guys for joining. We will see you in 2 weeks. Have a great Cinco de Mayo. Be safe and have some fun.
Yes.